Welcome to a new episode of NFT Price Floor Podcast. Fasten your headphones and enjoy the ride.
Well, I guess we'll get started here in a second. Excited to be here. I'm glad to see the room filling up a little bit, and looking forward to this discussion of this kind of epic Sotheby's auction.
Yeah, the Sotheby's auction that it's going to take place tomorrow. I think at, correct me, Michael, if I'm wrong, 5 p.m. EST. And 37 works of digital art are going to be auctioned. The auction is titled Grails. And these NFTs are owned by Three Arrows Capital, the ex-Singapore-based hedge fund that signed a bankruptcy last year. So the NFT sale is expected to realize around 5 million, which is in addition to the 6 million already achieved through auctions and private sales. The fund owes creditors around 3.5 billion, and the sale of the NFTs is one way to raise funds. And this quite remarkable event gives us the opportunity to talk about generative art in the NFT space, which is maybe one of the native NFT crypto art types that succeeded the most.
Yeah, 100%. Should we start with a quick round of introductions or something?
Yeah, sure.
Who we are? I can start. I'm Mad Butter. Mars and I will introduce themselves in a second, co-host in AI Art Today. And we're primarily interested in sort of in talking about AI art tools and art and that sort of thing, but we're both very big fans of generative art, and we're invited by Albert and NFT Prize Floor here to come chat with you guys about this work in particular and this auction in particular. So we're super happy to be here. Thanks again, NFT Prize Floor, for giving us the opportunity, and pass it on to Albert.
Yeah, I'm basically an artist, currently working with AI as well, although I've been working with many tools, and also a big fan of NFT art in general, generative art. I'm a collector of art block artwork. I own many pieces from art blocks. And very, very glad to be here and have the chance to speak with you guys.
Hey guys, I'm Marziv. Just like Mad Butter said, I'm one of the co-hosts and founder of AI Art Today. You can check out our previous interviews at artoday.com, including Rope Reynesto, Kate Voss. And we love AI art history. We love NFT history. And I think it's so exciting about this Sotheby's art blocks auction. And because we're living in the evolution of generative art, and it is exciting to see it cross over into IRL. So this is an amazing space. And FYI, guys, I threw up a link up top to the official Sotheby's page for the auction. And so if y'all are wanting to take a look at the works and what's happening with that, just click the link up above. Thanks for having me.
Michael.
Yes. Hi everyone.
Hello.
Thank you very much. No, first of all, I want to
Michael.
say thank you for inviting me. It's a pleasure to be here, and I see on the stage many people I know, collectors, etc. So it's I'm very happy to speak a little bit about these grail sales, etc. To introduce myself, so I'm Michael Bouhanna. I'm from France originally. Been working at Sotheby's for 8 years, first in London and moved recently to New York. I've been been handling NFTs, digital arts now since the first time actually we get into this new market in March 21, and so I'm heading this new department at Sotheby's where we do like all our curated sales, primary sales, also working directly with artists, and also working on our Sotheby's Metaverse platform, where we have a secondary marketplace and also primary space also for artists to sell their work.
Cool. We have already the guys from Vertical Crypto. Hey, what's up?
Hi, thank you for having me. It's Nicole here, founder of Vertical Crypto Art. Nice to see a few familiar faces on stage. Hey, Michael. And we started Vertical Crypto Art around 3 years ago, very much focused on digital art as a whole, but also very much focused on Gen Art as well, working with artists, doing exhibitions. We've collaborated with Sotheby's in the past as well. So yeah, excited to be here and talk about the auction.
Cool. Rodo, what's up, man? How are you doing?
Hey guys, I'm doing good. Rodo here from the Netherlands. Been in crypto for quite some time already. Also into NFTs from 2017. Back when I claimed a bunch of punks, actually. And ever since been involved with the space. Also a huge Gen Art fan. I'm really looking forward to the auction tomorrow and to see for what prices all these grills will go.
Cool. Yeah, there's also three CryptoPunks that's going to be auctioned tomorrow. Barcella, how is it pronounced?
I call it Barcella. Just 'cause
Barcella.
I guess that's that's how I pronounce it. But I've heard it as Barcella before too. So no worries on the pronunciation. But
Okay.
I'm Barcella from North America. I started to collect generative art back in 2021. Actually, my first pickup was an elevated deconstruction, and I still have that in my bag to this day. I'm super excited about this auction. I'm scanning through the lots right now, and it's amazing just how visually appealing I find generative art is, and it's just a nice collection of all the projects that I think I hold near and dear to my heart as sort of art blocks. Art blocks curated, OG in that sense, going back to when they had their sort of curated sets and so on, and then I go back to when. I was involved in a Christie's auction that actually passed. It didn't sell, but 31 pieces of generative art went to auction at Christie's in 2021. So, maybe if that had gone to auction with Sotheby's, it would have sold. So, but no, I'm super excited to be here, and I'm just a big fan of Gen Art, and I too, like Rodo, I'm just excited to see the outcome tomorrow night. I think Michael's done a great job with marketing it and communicating the various pieces and so on, and I'm looking forward to seeing what happens.
Cool. So
I'm just
Michael,
curious, as a matter of context and history, Michael, were you involved in the natively digital auction? That sort of started all this for the auction houses?
Yeah, of course. I started in March 21, and first we've done the pack sale that was hosted on Nifty Gateway, but soon after we've been able to host our first sale fully on Sotheby's.com, and it was the first natively digital, where I really wanted to. It was our first venture in the NFT space, and it was a moment also in May, June 21, where it was getting a lot of attention, this NFT digital art movement. And so we really wanted to do like a retrospective sale, very educative to our traditional collectors. So we've done this sale where we sold actually the very first NFT ever minted by Kevin McCoy. It's a quantum, it's done in 2014 on Namecoin, so it's pre-Ethereum. And then you had like a CryptoPunk alien that back then sold at 12 million. It remained the record until the 20 million sale. I think that happened many months after. and then unfolding all the different movements you see. We were seeing it from this NFT space, digital art space, which was like the pop digital art, conceptual art, generative art, etc., and trying to be very educative on what exists, what are the new artists, this new generation of artists, etc. It was extremely successful, so we continued actually to work around this type of natively digital curations. And then we've done one just on collectors. So we invited a number of collectors to bring up 3 pieces of their own. It was this time to really unveil a bit these new actors in this new movement, which are the collectors, and have a very central space and place in this movement. And then we've done actually almost in June 22 also natively digital on generative art only. I worked closely with Sofia Garcia and Michael Spalter in the curation, and we had works by all the generative artists we know, Dmitry Cherniak, Tyler Hobbs, Eggshell. There were also some AI art, like with Pindar Van Arman. And yes, so it's still like a great way for us to bring some highly curated selections, where I think in the space there are some great actors also doing the same thing, like vertical Mikol with the vertical crypto gallery, etc. And but I definitely think we need a more curated space for collectors to understand a bit the movement, the different trends, the aesthetics, etc.
Well, I just love seeing that. Just going back to that show, I think for me that was the moment where I kind of realized that generative art had really arrived. I know it got a lot of attention, but it seemed like I don't know if you call Sotheby's the traditional art world, but certainly outside of my NFT zone, and it was kind of like a landmark time where I said, where I kind of woke up and paid attention. But one thing I like, even looking all the way back to that, is that a lot of the work in this current auction is definitely like old school original artists, and that you can kind of see that a lot of the artists are the same. I mean, you had Autoglyphs back then, some punks, and some a bunch of other things. So I think this idea that we were going to explore here a little bit about how this market holds up over time is kind of evident right there.
Yes, I agree. I think with generative art, I mean, you're gonna see us very more present in the generative art space. Like since a few months, we really wanted to focus our program in this movement specifically, and for many reasons. Like we think that it's a movement that is not new; it's just contemporary. It's just part of contemporary art. It's been it's a movement that started. We could argue that it started actually way before, but algorithmic art really started with the computer in the 1950s, 60s. And then we saw many post-war artists actually using the computer or the algorithmic or making some protocols in there with the completion of their work. So it like looking at the whole history of generative art, going through all the innovation of the tools that could use the artist, and then going into the blockchain and how the blockchain revolutionized actually the generative art because of the accessibility it gave to artists to create with this medium, and also to collectors actually to access to the works. And with the help of art blogs, I think we've been instrumental in making this connection between the artist and the collectors. So like for 70 years, I think the post-blockchain generative art space been the most significant. So I'm pretty sure it will leave some trace to the contemporary art more broadly. So this is why also we will focus our program, and we'll have some news actually after the sale, soon after the sale, a week or 10 days after, to again show our commitment for this generative art movement.
So Michael, then you think that is this continuity that goes back from contemporary art, as you said, generative art is not something completely NFT native. Is this continuity that makes it easier for traditional collectors to get into the NFT space?
I think like generative art is definitely like a more easier door for traditional collectors to get into it. I still have some traditional collectors calling me and says, "You still do these NFT things?" And that they tell me about the Bored Apes, and so it requires really to them to understand a bit like that we are today in a very new market. I think it's like starting from scratch since a few months. There are like many new collectors. The many collectors that were there in 21 like are now also well more educated to it, and this whole generative art movement gain in recognitions also from the institutions, the museums, etc. So I really feel that the generative art movement is separating with the whole NFT space somehow. That includes everything from utility, PFPs, etc. And therefore, yes, for us, it's easier when you talk to traditional clients who also collect Rothko or Basquiat and also some early surrealist artists to be able to speak in front of a work and go back to the 60s even earlier to explain about the importance or the beauty of that work. It helps rather than like with some other works in the NFT space that are difficult to put in the context of the whole history of art or contemporary art movement.
So you see that the number of collectors interested in this kind of art, generative NFT art, is growing.
To me, it's reinforcing. The collectors already in it are having more confidence in that they are doing the right thing and really focusing their attention to this movement. Plus, there are some very very little. It's step by step, but there are some traditional collectors getting into it, and also the participation now of museums, institutions, like also more serious curators into the space helps a lot also in getting credibility. And it's like the sale we have now. I think it's also helping in showing that we can display generative artworks, NFTs, and almost like being almost a collector could hang that beside a Basquiat or Sol-Lewitt, and it could still stand, and you get the aura of the work of art. That's something when we had just like screens into the whole room, many people were just like people who are not in the NFT or crypto, like traditional clients, were like living that, saying like it's just TVs. It's very and I think it helps like making these events. We do panels, like every sale we do, it's also an occasion to educate more people. It doesn't convert necessarily to sales, but still it's step by step, etc. It'll become the new normal actually to have this included at Sotheby's or into the contemporary art sale, etc. It'll be just a new collection habit also for new collectors.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Hey, Rodo, go ahead. You have your hand raised.
Yeah, so I'm a little bit curious. I'm not sure if you can answer, Michael, but when you look at the collectors of the previous auction, were those like more traditional collectors, or did you see like it were more digitally native collectors or a mix? Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes, it depends when we go back, because in 21 when we started the first sale, we had many traditional clients being curious because like everyone was talking about NFTs. This was the new thing. Many people also were making a lot of money with NFTs. So there were a lot of people wanting to get into it, not miss the train, etc. Then there is like the bear market. I don't like to say that because I just think it feels like more like a totally new market. But since like really the market crash like a year ago or more, and also I think the general sentiment around NFTs and digital art in the wide, like in the media, doesn't help in bringing new collectors. But since we with certain movement like generative art, with the sale we have now, like we see like a different relationship like the traditional collectors have, and they are more receptive to it. So I think from now on, I see the way the past 3-4 months the market and the ecosystem evolved. I see we'll start to see a lot more, but not a lot more, but like more traditional clients, collectors like getting into it. But very small, like the dominance, every sale I do, the dominance is obviously NFT native, digitally native collectors, etc. And even if there is like a new client from traditional art coming in, it's like at a lower price point. It's not like they won't buy 300K, they won't spend 300K on the first NFT. And
I'm curious if you think you said sort of one obstacle to traditional collectors coming in is sort of like, I don't know what you call it, the immateriality of the stuff, that it's online, that it's all that, and then you kind of address that by, I don't know, but not just having it on TVs or online, but in print and other things. I'm wondering if all the negative publicity about crypto in general is also scaring people away. I guess you have some ways. I think the fact that Sotheby is putting its name and reputation behind this is probably going to make a big difference to counteract some of that negativity. But I'm wondering if you see that as a big obstacle, or what other obstacles you see.
yes, no, there is many obstacles. Yesterday I spoke with like a very, very important contemporary art collector who wants to look into one artist, and was getting some advice, and he was very concerned about first the NFT and where he should hold it. Is it safe if he has in his own wallet, but he never made a wallet. He's scared that it could be lost, etc. I think that's one obstacle when you have absolutely no experience in crypto. It can be very scary to know you may put 500K in something that you don't know even how to check if it's still there. And also on the fact that how much the value is correlated to the crypto. For some people, like, and fair enough, like it's a very speculated market that fluctuates a lot. So put it also 500,000 on something that is potentially very correlated to the crypto market is maybe a double bet for them. One on the artist, even though it's for the aesthetic, extra, it's for the good reasons, but without wanting it, they also invest somehow in the crypto, which is, I think, another obstacle and a no-go for some of the collectors. And then there is the display for sure. Like I feel that there will be some great improvement, I think, in the next 2 years in the screen technology, and also in the way artists can create their work, maybe always involving like a print or different ways. Like we see, for example, Grain to Youn, he announced recently that he's doing a one-of-one with a print made with Avant Art. It's a new trend, maybe also that I'm sure will appeal to traditional collectors.
Yeah, that's an awesome trend. Hey, and shout out to everybody that's in the room today. Welcome to NFT Price Floor. We're so lucky to have Michael and Sotheby's. We have Roto with us, Vertical Crypto, Barcella. Now, show some love to the room and retweet this room. Just go ahead and let everybody know, and let's blow this room up. And thank you guys so much for joining us, and let's show some love to everybody. And also, there's a little comment button in purple down there in the bottom right. And if you'd like to go down there and comment on what you think is your favorite auction for tomorrow, your favorite work, go ahead and put it in the comments. We would love to know. And let's keep going. And hey, I have a quick question for Barcella. Hey, speaking of favorite works, do you have a favorite work for tomorrow, and why?
Yeah, so there's, I kind of look at it as, I'm like a kid in a candy store when I see these lots listed, and I like to, my mind gravitates towards the thing. It's like a self torment where I know I'm probably not going to attain these pieces in my lifetime, and I mean I hopefully am incorrect in saying that, but sort of probabilistically speaking, there's a pretty low probability chance that I'll end up with an autoglyph, for example, which is the one thing that, I saw them around maybe 100, 125 Ethereum at some point, and I thought about snagging one because I was fairly, liquid at one point back in 21, and I didn't, and I wish I had. So I don't have an autoglyph, so that's definitely top of my list. And then I'd say the Eternal Pump is kind of that really, really low mint, unique piece that not a lot of people obviously, hold. The bid right now I think is $175,000, which is like 3 times the estimate, or 2 times the estimate. So obviously there's other interested parties there. I think it's a similar situation for the Autoglyph. It is, so it's at 240 on like an estimate of 120 to 180. So I think both of those are in line with the fact that they're low mint historical pieces in many senses, from obviously two very reputable artists, Larva Labs and then Dimitri. And so I think those are probably my two favorites, because I think I don't own them, first of all. So I have a Fidenza, for example. There's some beautiful Fidenzas here. I have a squiggle. I actually have two squiggles. There's some nice squiggles here, but I don't have an autoglyph, and I don't have an eternal pump, and I think there's a good chance I'll never have them. So I'd say those two pieces are my favorite.
Awesome. Thank you. Hey, Roto, I also posted up a thread that you did this week talking about the various pieces in the collection. And so everybody check out the link up top by Roto. It's just really awesome. It shows off some of the, really interesting pieces. And one of the things that's pretty wild, Roto, is how you said that these works are so distinct and interesting that you assign, not you personally, but they've been assigned names. And I thought that was a pretty fascinating aspect I never thought of with generative blocks. And it's almost like, I wonder if you have a generative block that doesn't have a name, if it's less in value. But so tell us a little bit about that. I think that's pretty wild.
Yeah, it's really interesting, and yeah, like, to be honest, like I wrote in the thread, it doesn't happen that often, because in general, when you have like this long form collection, you have a lot of stunning pieces that really look amazing, and some of them do stand out, like in terms of rarity, because they have specific traits that don't happen that often. But sometimes, like, there's a slight chance that there is an outcome that's really, really unique. And in the case of ringers, it's the goose, obviously. So people see a goose in it. Actually, some other people see a pelican in it, which I see as well. But that's really interesting, because that makes the piece actually stand out more, because if you can name it, then it's also more memorable. And then a couple of other collections have that as well, as I wrote. Fidenza has a couple. I wrote 2 of them in my thread. You could even argue that there are more. Also, Meridian has a really stunning one, which is a Starry Night, which looks like a night sky with a backlit mountain. It's really amazing. Like, it looks like, almost like an artist intended piece, but it's actually not. It's really an outcome of the algorithm. And I think, like, those are really great examples of what makes generative art so interesting, because the artist, he makes the algorithm, but obviously, like, he can't control all the outcomes. So there's always a little bit of surprise in the outcomes. And when you look at these pieces, those are really special, and they speak to a lot of people, and that's why people gave them names, and also that there's consensus on what the name actually is, what the piece is, what it represents. And I think that's really interesting, and that makes those pieces really stand out.
Just as a side note, the Meridian that Roto's talking about is a piece by, I'm not going to massacre his name, but Matt Deslauriers. I'm saying that all wrong, but who has 2 pieces in here, but not one of the, it's another drop by him. And it's one of my favorite all-time art blocks drops, for sure.
I think something quite interesting as well, just on the back of what Rodo is just saying, is that especially with long form generative art, and one of the reasons I think that has become so popular and so important within the space, and also most broadly in the contemporary art world, is that it creates every single long form project creates a community between the artists and the collectors. And so even in a sale like this, all of the collectors that have previously collected, ringers or meridians or KZ Rare's work or Kettle Gold, feel like they're part of something bigger. And so it's actually quite a special moment, not just for like the single artwork and the single artist, but the whole collection as a whole, and everybody who is part of that community as well. which I think actually is probably one of the reasons why art blocks and algorithmic art on chain has become almost, like the catalyst of digital art as an entry point for a lot of traditional art collectors into the space as well.
Yeah, this is a pretty interesting point, Vertical. The idea of a community that I think also is very well aligned with the blockchain ethos, right? Because I was wondering why the generative art has fit so well into the blockchain community, and maybe what you just said is probably one of the reasons.
Yeah, I think it combines, obviously, like, I definitely agree, and I think it combines a few different reasons. Like, probably the first one is how, like, it's natively on chain, and for the longest time, as Michael said before, yes, like, the generative artists have been making generative art for decades. Vera Monlar, Herbert Franke, and many others before blockchain. But actually, with blockchain, and obviously with art blocks facilitating that, the process of minting these one of 100 or 1 of 1 or 200 or whatever is completely unique. That could not happen before. So I think one of the main reasons why generative art has been so fundamentally important in kind of like the history of blockchain art, and will become even more important, I think, from my perspective, is also this, that the process of generating this art on chain was not possible before. So you could still obviously collect and appreciate generative art, but it would probably have to be in a print format or like with a USB key. You couldn't really have that process of minting and generating an output from the code on chain.
Maybe I can elaborate on that, because I totally agree. And what, from a collector's point of view, I also think is really important. Like, you are, as a collector or a customer, how you look at it, you're involved. You have a direct connection with the artist, and you, like, when you mint a piece, you put the algorithm to work and you have an output, but it's like, you obviously, like, you don't know what the output is going to be. And so from that point of view, it's also almost like a little bit of addicting to mint these pieces, because it's so interesting, like, what you're gonna get, and like that unexpected element. That's also really what makes it fun to mint these collections, and to collect gen art.
Michael, what do you expect tomorrow?
I think I expect to be. It's already a success when we look at the engagement we have from the whole NFT, the whole generative art community. The number of bids, there is above 600 bids, more than 80 bidders. Already, like, some really serious bids placed on some of the top works. What is very exciting is, like, to have a live auction. It's the first time we have, like, a live auction with like a full sale, fully dedicated to NFTs. So we'll have close to 150 people in the room, with many bidders raising their paddle. And so for us, it's super exciting to be able to offer that to the community, the full Sotheby's live auction experience, etc. So on that front, it's already a success, and then hopefully it'll continue to go up and achieve the highest results. I think the quality is there in terms of, like, each work is, like, the selection of collection is really, like, demonstrating the quality of some of the art blocks drops we've seen in 2021, and also some of the outputs in that sale are some of the nicest. And so I do expect a lot of a lot of bids and excitement around these sales.
Do you think it can out-succeed the previous one in terms of numbers?
Each work is different, so it's hard to say. I think it's the particularity is that you have 37 lots if going from 5K to above 3 million. So we'll have a lot more bidders following the sale and maybe jumping onto other works if they see a good opportunity. Something that in the previous sale there were just 7 lots, so only the people who had interest in these 7 exact lots were like ready to bid. So here we would see a wider engagement, so it will maybe result in higher sales, but we never know. I think I think it was very strong the past sale. We hope to reach the same, but we can't predict.
Cool.
I mean, there is the goose that we know for sure that will achieve at least a record for a 2023 sale. So we are excited to see that.
So the goose is the star for tomorrow.
Yes, yeah, definitely.
The golden goose.
The golden goose. I'm curious about how you set the estimate prices of every piece.
Yeah, so they are very low. It's very attractive estimates, but for like multiple reasons. First, when we price young markets in general across our departments and especially in contemporary art, because we sell some young artists who've made and sometimes works that were made the year before. These are very young markets that achieved maybe certain prices, but just the past 2 years. So we don't take the past 2 years as like if it has to be factored in our auction estimate. So we stayed extremely attractive, and they usually outpass by far the high estimates. But then with these NFTs, it's different because actually they tend to have traded a lot in a very short period of time. So we have more market data to justify maybe higher estimates. But I had to take into account that first there is the 26% buyer's premium to take into account. And on top of that, like the estimates are in USD. They are set up, in that case, they were set in USD like 20 days before. So I want to give some room. Also, we know that Ethereum may go down in less than 10 days by 20%. So if I would have put higher estimates, they may then be completely outdated. So I stay very cautious on many fronts, both on the crypto, on the fact that also each project could have their floor go down drastically and quite quickly because there is not that many liquidity for this project. So all that together led me to these estimates.
You know, I'm going to throw it out to the rest of the panel. Michael just said the goose is going to be the king of the show. Do y'all think that there's an underestimated piece that might, just surpass everything and might surprise us? What do y'all think?
I don't know what you mean by outpass everything.
Like the goose is obviously right now the head of the show. But to Roto or Barcella or Vertical, do you think there's another piece though that might surprise everybody?
I mean, it really depends on who's gonna, who the sort of registered bidders are. This is Barcella here, and that's what's so interesting about these auctions. And maybe Michael has sort of confidentially some insight as to who obviously those people are, but it really depends. And I do know my time with Christie's that there's a lot of last minute entrants and so on. And so I think it's really up to who those people in the room or online or on the phone or whatever the case is are, and what they're interested in. I mean, you could see one of the Fidenzas, like the micro Fidenza, for example, go for like $1.5 million or something. It's right now it's at what, 500 grand. That could be unexpected, but then again, that is not really out of the ordinary when you look at some of Tyler Hobbs' work, especially recently. I mean, the Eternal Pump I mentioned could go if there's someone who's really keen on that. The Autoglyph, in my opinion, even the one squiggle that's a perfect spectrum. I mean, it's at 170 grand right now. People see the squiggle as kind of the the sort of standard project that defines, at least visually, the generative art movement from a digital perspective, I think. And so I mean, that could go for a dramatic price point, that could steal a show in some respects. But I mean, it's probably going to be the Goose, because I know, it is that super elite piece that Michael's been pushing a lot. I think like understandably, like in terms of obviously marketing, and I've seen it plastered all over Twitter, and so it's definitely on people's minds.
I think it's nice to see the Deaf Beef doing at the top of the estimates so far. Now I think that he's definitely
It's a good point. It's another one.
an amazingly, maybe a little bit underappreciated artist in the space, because I think he's such an important presence there. And it's too bad you can't hear the audio here, but I had to go to his site to listen to it. But it's great.
Yeah, guys, if you could have one of the pieces, which one would be? So right now, you want one. Which one?
I'm happy to start. Yeah.
I might go for that Tyler Hobbs, the 479. So beautiful.
For me, it's very hard. Like there is many pieces I like. If I had to choose one, maybe I'll go for the Autoglyph. I think it's so important, like that, like the date, like 2019 being one of the first one. It's very experimental for Lava Labs when they do it. It's a very small supply, and it carry really this historic element that I think is make it very special.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I think
I have to agree. Oh, sorry, Rodo.
Yeah, I think like there are so many amazing pieces in this lot, and it's so hard to choose. And it's like what Marcella said, like you feel like a kid in a candy store, and to be honest, like I want all of them. But if I had to choose, like it probably would be the Autoglyph, because it's also so important in this space. But yeah, it's like I would be happy with any of the Fidenzas. Even the Eternal Pump is amazing. So yeah, it's pretty hard to choose.
For me, it would be the Eternal Pump, without a doubt. I mean, I think it's one of the most astounding collections in art blocks, in my opinion. I just love it, and it has only, I think, just 50 items, right? I mean, it has a very low supply as well. And I want to ask you all guys, because I sometimes think about taking a look at the prices, the estimates, the current bids that are already been placed. I see, I mean, there's a huge difference between artworks, right? And for example, to me, it is really curious, and it's a bit hard to understand, like how pieces like Centuries by Casey Rias. I mean, Casey Rias he's the guy that created processing programming language along with Ben Fry, that the rest of the artists are probably using. And he's a guy that's been around for a long time. He has exhibited his artwork in places like the Whitney and Pompidou in Paris, the Victoria and Albert Museum. And seeing these huge differences between, for example, I don't mean that, I mean, my question is, do you think there's any kind of reason, or is just pure subjectivity? We know that art is pure subjectivity, that justifies such differences between prices?
I'm happy to speak. I'm also extremely surprised about this disconnect. But I don't think we should see the floor price as necessarily the importance or the quality of the work at all. Kesirias is definitely one of the most important actor on the artist side, and especially because he created this program processing that helped so many artists to also get with their own generative art project. Is the one who made it really who democratized a bit the generative art when I think it's in the early 2000s he launched processing with Ben Fry, and there were close to 5,000 people using it, and it's in 2018 that he was seeing 250,000 people actually using it. So we see this growth of artists, of generative artists, or people using this program to create outputs and generative art. So I think you've been instrumental in the growth of this movement, and yes, it could be then it should reflect then on the price of his drops, but yeah, I do agree. I'm the first one to collect Kesirias because it's so important. Is one of the few names that that is in the history of generative art already.
Yeah, I mean, not to mention his work with Feral File and other sort of efforts he's had to bring sort of really challenging, interesting digital art and generative art to the broader community. I think, yeah, his influence. I think he's a great artist, but I think his influence is certainly, very, very important with processing and with his mission to promote other artists and do all that stuff. Makes him sort of like a real legend in the space.
Hey, Michael, go ahead.
I think it's the kind of endless discussion about sometimes the disconnect between, the market prices and the work. And as Michael said, which I completely agree, the price shouldn't reflect the quality of the work. I think it comes in a lot of factors come into play, especially with I think long form generative art, where there's so many players that are part of this one collection. So there's some incredible artists in there, like even Matt Delorier, Def Beef, as somebody was mentioning before. So I think sometimes quite commonly we see a disconnect with floor prices and just prices of artworks and the quality of the work. So I don't personally think that this should be a reflection of in any way of the artist or of the work itself.
Yeah, an interesting question for Michael and anybody else on the panel. But this is a historic auction, and I'm curious, in 100 years, do you think these pieces are going to be called the new abstract art?
It's 100 years. It's hard, huh? I can't say what's going to happen in 5-10 years. I'm full time in this now for a while. I truly believe that we are seeing a new movement, a new generation of collectors, of artists, etc. So I really believe in this, in being a long-term trend, and it's very generational as well. But in 100 years, I can't predict anything. I wish.
We won't hold you to it then.
You went too far. You went too far.
Yeah.
Well, talking about what Vertical was saying, about having these collections. I mean, imagine if Kandinsky, Rothko, or Pollock, or these guys had collections that could instantly create these kind of communities. This is definitely something that's never been experienced before at this kind of scale. And and then to think that really you look at all the work, it is all abstract art. And so I think it's just amazing.
I actually think, of course, nobody knows what's going to happen in 100 years, but I do think that instead of being a part of generative art being called abstract art, it would just be there'll be categories specifically dedicated to generative art. Like I even imagine, auction houses have specific sales that are dedicated to generative art. And I mean, like in my view, it's the most contemporary art form that there is at the moment. So yeah, I don't know if precisely abstract art, but definitely it is a category of its own and fits into the contemporary art category as a whole really, really well, if we think about the definition of contemporary art.
I liked what you were saying, Rhoda, earlier about how the community building aspect of it, and what Rhoda was saying also about maybe sort of the gamification, like the idea that you as the collector might feel like you're sort of involved with the birth of the art when you mint it. Your hash is very particular to the time that you mint it and all that, and you feel like you're sort of part of the process, and that also really adds to the community features. And I think Tyler Hobbs is pushing that even further with like his latest project QQL and all that, where you can actually just mint the one. You can reiterate and iterate until you find the one that you actually want to mint. But I do think it goes back to this on-chain idea and the generative art idea, like coming together in such an interesting way. If the blockchain is really about trying to create scarcity or define scarcity, generative art has kind of always really been about abundance. The idea that variation and permutation is so important there, that they come together very nicely with this sort of art blocks mechanism that allows you to create something sort of beautifully original but still part of a group. And that is like that we've never seen that in art before, and it is incredibly inherent in the medium itself. And it really helps everyone who owns a Chromie Squiggle, or everyone feel like they're part of a group and a gang. And I think we've never really seen that. I think it really is genre defining.
Yeah, totally agree. And also, if we think about the future, now we also need to consider that the new art collectors, like the people who are collecting this type of work, are very much like digitally native. So in the future, this would happen more and more, and it'll just be something very natural for people to understand this type of work. It doesn't really need that sort of like almost convincing, right? Like at the moment, obviously, it's great to see family offices and like more kind of like traditional contemporary art collectors appreciating this, and in a way like kind of like validating it, although I don't think it needs validation. But if we think about 10, 5, 20 years from now, like the new generation of collectors is being built right now, and all of these people get blockchain, get Web3, get NFTs really, really well. So I think that will be also interesting to see how this kind of like new generation of collectors shapes what happens next.
Rodo, Marcella, what do you expect from the 3 CryptoPunks for tomorrow?
I mean, it's tough with punks because unless they're incredibly rare punk, which, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think any of these punks are really unique or like low or scarce. And like if you're talking, kind of relatively floor-ish to mid-deck punks, probably market price. I wouldn't expect they're gonna drive any multiple of floor or anything crazy, or probably even exceed floor for that matter, to the extent of like anything significant. So probably realistically selling at their market price. Punks have a pretty clear market price. Mid decks are a bit more difficult, but just looking at these punks, I think they'll probably go for what they're expected to go for. I may be wrong, but I'll let Rodo pop in on that one.
Yeah, well, if you look at the bids, then they are actually already above the estimates. But I think the estimates are pretty low.
I was gonna say, like, are the estimates floor price at all, right?
Yeah, it's they are in USD and always need to convert that to ETH to get the floor price. So I'm not completely sure like how they're valued with these estimates. But yeah, I think they will also go a little bit above floor actually, especially like the knitted cap, and yeah, the other two are pretty much. I would expect that they would sell at floor actually. So yeah, I don't expect that much action as with the other more Grail Gen art pieces. Yeah, I do think that they will get sold at a good price, but yeah, not like 1 million plus like what we will see with the Goose and yeah, at least one Fidenza.
Yeah, currently the bids are under floor price in the three CryptoPunks.
If only we had a tool to check the floor price of NFTs. Oh wait, no, I just looked on nftpricefloor.com.
Yeah,
and yeah, the floor is put right at 50 ETH, which is right where these are at.
yeah. And
by the way, I love this tool. It is really awesome. So
yeah. Awesome
all those
tool.
answers right at our fingertips.
Yeah, and they're getting better and better. I mean, they've been working for a long time, and they are just getting better and better. Michael, I wanted to ask you, as we said before, Matt Butter, Mars, and myself are very into AI art. Matt Butter and Mars interviewed Kate Voss like a couple weeks ago. Kate Voss, she's a curator and collector and the founder of the Kate Voss gallery I think in Switzerland, in Zurich, I think. And in her opinion, AI art could be considered as a subset of generative art. Being that the case or not, do you see among the people you work with, collectors, curators, an interest in AI generated art? Could we see in a year or two the same kind of auction, but with AI art instead of generative art?
It's a question for me, huh? Sorry.
Yeah.
I think, yes, this is probably where there is the most crossovers between collectors, like between the AI and generative art. And yes, it's hard again to predict like how it's going to evolve. It feels still like very, very young. There are like a few artists really using very well all these tools and being very successful. I do think it's like similarly to generative art. It's always interesting when there is a new movement arising from a innovation, a technological innovation. It's very often in the history of art you see that every new movement emerged from an innovation, either like the industrialization or a societal innovation, or like. So I wouldn't be surprised that it brings on also with generative art like a new movement in the future.
It's interesting. Kate said that she considered it to be AI art sort of like a subcategory of generative art. I'm wondering if you and Vertical Crypto kind of see that the same way. I know Vertical Crypto. I've seen a number of great shows of AI art that you put on. I'm wondering if you think about that. And you talked about different categories in the future. I wonder if you see it as sort of more in common or more different.
I don't know. It's hard to put things in categories, closed categories. I think there is crossover. There is like even like both together, or like works can use both elements, components together, and but yes, it's very, very connected for sure.
Yeah, I tend to agree. I personally wouldn't put them in the same category, but that's my kind of like opinion. I know that artists, generative artists, use AI as well to kind of like help inform their code and help them in the process of creating gen art or algorithmic art. I don't know whether it'll be considered in the same category. I also think that, like AI covers quite a lot of different like artistic practices and areas. So it's hard to almost like categorize it as just or underneath generative art personally.
There's so many categories
Yeah.
within generative AI with itself that you could talk about things that are wildly different, from text prompting to making GANs and with deep complicated research are not the same thing at all. If I may, just a quick shout out, Kate Voss is going to have a drop in a couple of days of someone in our audience, Ivana Tao, who's a fabulous artist, is here in the audience. So everybody check that out.
I have a quick question for Rodo, Barcelo, Vertical, even Michael. That could y'all see this auction and previous auction is almost like a redemption story for blockchain? Because I remember when the Three Arrows news came out and they were saying that they were going to have to liquidate. Everybody was so speculative. Like, how is this going to happen? Is it going to be like one big, they're going to sell as one big lot, or are they going to split it up? And is everything going to lose its value? And I know that the liquidation aspect, and of course the negative press that comes across with it. And so I know a lot of people were concerned about the value of NFT. And do y'all feel like this could be like a redemption story for blockchain? Especially the success of the last auction.
I mean, personally, I think a lot of people are not even like associating the two strictly together anymore. It's almost like become its own thing in a way, which is quite interesting to see. I don't know if blockchain needs a redemption, to be honest. I think it's fine. It was definitely, like a big news when obviously the news came out that they wanted to liquidate the collection. But I think, to be honest, it kind of took a much more positive turn and like outcome. And I personally, maybe it's in my kind of like bubble, but I don't really see many people talking about the two as I was expecting. Maybe I feel like it's kind of become, the Grail's auction, and that's that, without even, such a big mention towards the liquidation of the collection at all. But open to other thoughts as well.
Well, I'm curious what Michael says, because he did say that this whole aura around crypto being kind of a little dangerous and sleazy is an obstacle to some group of collectors he'd like to reach.
Yeah, no, I think like when 3AC, when it was like public that the 3AC portfolio was going to be liquidated, there were like the whole market, the generative art market was really afraid on the way it was going to be done. And this is where actually we've started to see a lot of people offloading their works, etc. But at the end of the day, that's mostly probably also collectors who have a more short-term, mid-term belief in this movement, where we announced that we were taking care of the liquidation. And I think what we've done very well already, it's switching the narrative from a liquidation to a celebration, to the generative art, to the art blocks, to this new movement. And now people are less talking about the liquidation, but more about grails, and it carries also all the educational material we have going on with the sale. So it becomes very positive for the ecosystem. I don't think there will be a before. There will be, in terms of market, a before after, in a sense that this is, since the news is out that this liquidation was happening, people were either not spending their ETH because they wanted to wait to be able to purchase them, and this is one of the reasons we've seen the results and so far being very successful. And other people who really loved the movement but didn't want to be exposed to the short-term fluctuation will be able to get back in, knowing that the liquidation should go more smoothly than what they thought. And also, I'm so sorry, I will have to jump off. I have a hard stop at 3.
Yeah.
But I was very happy to be here. Thank you again for welcoming me. And I just want to say one thing, like we have tomorrow at 4 p.m. the live auction happening. There is still some room if people are in New York and wants to to watch the sale, feel free to DM me, and I'll be happy to add you to the list.
Okay, Michael, again, thank you very much for being here. We appreciate it very much. And the rest of you, I don't know if you have
I'm
to
also
jump
gonna
off
hop off.
as well. Okay, so then we are going to wrap it up for today. Thanks everybody for being here, the speakers and the listeners. It's been a pleasure having this conversation with you. And
and before we close, if we have any final words from Michael or Vertical, and then to Rodo and Barcella.
Yeah, again, thank you for everyone for listening, and I look forward to come back, and please you will be able everyone to watch the sale live tomorrow at 4 p.m. If you go on the sale page, there will be like a CTA to watch live. Thank you again, everyone.
Thank you, Michael.
Yeah, thanks again for having me. I think it'll be exciting actually to see the sale tomorrow, so I'm looking forward to that. And yeah, great conversation. Thanks a lot.
Okay, guys, Barcella, Rodo, thanks for being here.
You don't have any final words for the auction or something wild for us to think about? Let's go.
Hey guys, it's Barcella. I'm looking forward to it. I think it's a challenging transition when you're looking at this space and moving to these auction houses, and that's why I commend people like Michael, and I knew Noah back at Christie's and so on, who's now moved on to Yuga Labs as our CryptoPunks ambassador and so on. But these guys are on the forefront of a massive revolution in this generative art this gen art industry, and I just want to give those guys kudos, because again, it's not easy to be on that stage. There's a lot of traditional artists and art supporters who don't support digital art yet, and those guys get the sort of brunt of it. So kudos to them, and I look forward to seeing a successful result across the board at the auction tomorrow night.
Awesome, thanks, Barcella.
Yeah, guys, also thanks for having me. It was a fun conversation. Really looking forward to the auction tomorrow and to see for what prices all the items will go. We should probably do this more often, like also with a recap after the auction. That would be really interesting. But thanks for now, and talk to you all later.
Awesome, thanks.
Yeah, for sure. A recap after the auction of tomorrow would be great. And yeah, as you got what Barcella just said. I mean, I think it's really awesome that we can be talking about Sotheby's doing this auction with NFTs, generative art NFTs, NFTs in the end. So yeah, I think it's pretty awesome that this space went that far, and I hope it will go beyond.
Well, great. Thanks again to NFT Prize Floor for hosting this and for having us all here. Really appreciate it. Really appreciate everybody coming today. And see you next time.
See you next time, guys. Thank you. Cheers.
Cheers, everybody.